specifically on gender equality. So tonight we look at the analysis they have made and the proposals or recommendations they are pushing forward to ensure that the next budget meets the principles of gender equality. Our guests tonight, Ms. Promise Winnie Banturachi, Program Officer at Forward. You're most welcome, Promise.
Thank you, Edmund.
We're also joined by Mr. Jeff Wadulo, Executive Director of Jengar Africa. You're most welcome, Mr. Wadulo.
Thank you, Edmund.
Promise, what is gender-based budgeting?
Thank you, Edmund, and good evening, dear listeners. Gender-responsive budgeting, in a nutshell, or generally, is an initiative that MDAs, ministries, governments, departments have to do, or to emphasize, to plan for gender. They have to be gender sensitive. How do ministries plan? How do they budget? In the different voter locations, are the issues of men and women being considered? Are the issues of boys and girls being considered? And it's basically putting a gender lens to planning and to budgeting for different gender-specific issues that affect women, that affect men, that affect boys and girls differently. Yeah, in a nutshell, I can say.
Putting a gender lens to
plans, to budgets, to policies, to programs. Yeah.
And how have previous budgets conformed to this standard?
Usually, when we come on the media as CSOs, we are criticized for being very negative and not appreciating government efforts to promoting.
You are dressed in yellow. Go on, sing the praise.
Yes, we are usually criticized for being very negative and not appreciating government efforts, especially in mainstreaming the issues that are pertinent to them as government. For the last 8 or so more years, since 2006, the government of Uganda, through the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, has been issuing budget call circulars, or what I can call BCCs, directing spending agencies, ministries, agencies, departments to plan and budget for gender issues in the different sectors. And you're asking me how different sectors have responded to the BCC's call. We commend some sectors which have responded by planning, by budgeting for the gender-specific issues, and still I can't say that 100% most of the sectors have responded to this call. It's a mandate. It's a mandate by the Ministry of Finance that spending agencies have to plan and budget for gender. Some have responded, like the health sector. We have seen the health sector installing solar in the rural health centers to ensure that there is power in health centers to guide women deliver in hospitals. Though again, the situation is still wanting because there are so many health centers that do not have electricity. We've had women die because they do not have facilities to aid birth delivery. People still use candles and kerosene and the tadovas and cartouche to deliver in hospitals, mobile phones. But we still commend them also for rehabilitating some health centers. We have seen this massive move by the Ministry of Health to rehabilitate some referral hospitals, some health centers, and furnishing maternity wards, though to some extent the initiatives are still wanting. We've seen government trying to provide family planning services, PTMC, prevention of mother-to-child transmission. Yeah, those are all good initiatives that are geared to promoting gender, because these ones directly affect the woman. In the Ministry of Education, actually we applaud the Ministry of Education for being also a pace setter in trying to mainstream gender. The education sector at least has one technical person at the sector, gender technical person. They have an administrative assistant. They have some researchers who guide in the planning, in the
we'll go into
processing.
specifics at some stage. But first of all, let's hear from you, Jeff. You come from Gender Africa, so you have a broader perspective on these matters. Can you give us your own appraise of government? How sensitive have they been to this gender-based budgeting format?
Thank you, Edmund, and good evening, listeners. You could say, at least for the last 10 years, there has been a deliberate effort to mainstream gender. And you see, there is some kind of fundamental difference. When you say mainstream, it's different from, say, integrate, where you just think about gender issues and then you say, well, where are the women? Sometimes people fall off the cliff when they go on that line. But there's some kind of deliberate effort, and you can see from the budget framework paper, actually the budget framework papers for the last 3 years have deliberate inclusions, some annexes specific, I think about Annex 12, for all ministries, departments and agencies to have a component on how they have dealt with issues of gender. Of course, the other mainstream cross-cutting issues are HIV and AIDS and environment, but specifically to gender, you see they are even having budgets, although some of them have to grapple with, okay, so how do we spend this money? They do not have to isolate the gender aspect per se. Mainstreaming means if you were, for instance, having a cup of tea and gender was sugar and the other ingredients, at the end of the day you should have nice coffee. You fill it in there without necessarily isolating the ingredients. Yeah, so you could see some...
a whiff in the atmosphere.
You could see an effort, a deliberate effort. And I think the Ministry of Finance has been very useful as well, because they have worked with us at CSBAG, of which Gender Africa and FOR they are members, to require that all sectors, of about 16 sectors, include the gender component. And I think it is even going beyond that. In the current bill, finance bill, I think
public finance.
Yes, but the public finance bill, they are requiring that at some point before any sector gets its budget approved, they must have a certificate of
gender equity,
gender compliance,
gender equity.
Gender equity.
To get, I mean, how they should be able to have proved beyond reasonable doubt that they are programming and they are gender sensitive at the same time.
Promise, I mean, you mentioned mainstreaming, he mentioned mainstreaming and integrating. These are very sophisticated phenomena for many people. How do you draw that line? Maybe let's get back to you a little bit, Jeff.
Yes.
Mainstreaming and integrating. What's the difference there?
Yeah, mainstreaming is that you look at all, you look at gender as a cross-cutting issue across policies, across programs, and across actually the thinking. You do not have to isolate gender and say, well, we have not yet dealt with issues of women or men and so on. You should be able to have that, I don't want to use the same word again. You should be able to see gender thinking across all sectors of your programming, whatever it is.
Fitting into whatever program.
Whatever
so mainstreaming is advocacy based. It is transient. You start and you stop it at some stage, and eventually when it's integrated,
you should be able to feel it without seeing it.
Right. It's a whole in
the thinking, in the doing, in the programming, in the budgeting, and so on.
All right.
Now, okay.
Yes. And then
now integrating is an earlier effort. Mainstreaming is a more finer concept.
Yes.
Integrating is saying now, previously we didn't have anything to do with gender in our programming. Now we are concerned about issues of gender. So can we now start to be conscious and say, okay, we never used to disaggregate our data along men and women attendants of a meeting, as an example. We used never to say, well, how much money is going to are men or women in a certain budget. So you start saying now, well, at least we have a gender perspective. So you are integrating components into the program without necessarily looking at gender as something which needs to be a holistic aspect of programming.
All right. Well, listeners, this is Spectrum on Radio, and tonight, the road to the 2014-2015 national budget. Does the proposed budget meet the principles of gender budgeting? Our guests, Ms. Promise Banturachi, Program Officer at Forward, that's the Forum for Women in Democracy, and Mr. Jeff Wadulo, Executive Director at Jenga Africa. That's an NGO. You'll be able to call in at some stage. Promise, talk to us about these sectors. You began to sing praises for this current government about some of the things they've done. Continue with your song.
And also, maybe not to lose my point here, we are calling upon the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development to put in place enforcement mechanisms that will reward sectors that are complying to the agenda principles that are directed in the BCC or the budget call circular. So as much as praising them, they should continue enforcing. There should be mechanisms or what I can call...
They give them certificates.
Yes, the Public Finance Bill is proposing what we call the certificate of gender equity that will compel ministries to plan and budget for gender. Before they give you more money for the next financial year,
yes,
they'll need to check, have you complied? Have you complied to the principles in the budget?
So they can compete for paper certificates. They work harder to get a certificate.
Exactly.
Is that worth it? Do you think?
I think so. I think it would be a very good move for ministries to be subjected to this certificate.
A good starting point.
Yes, I think it would be exactly to be subjected to this. No, before they request for more funding for the next financial year, there is something to show that indeed they are mainstreaming gender in their sectors. So we are recommending this, and I hope our policymakers are listening in. We are recommending that this certificate of gender equity be incorporated. It's still a proposal. Be incorporated in the bill, and we're also calling upon our policymakers to expedite the process and pass this bill.
Right.
The issues, the different issues that came out in our analysis of the budget framework paper for the next financial year 2014-15. Let's start with the water and environment sector. We have
this certificate's certainly clear. Without this certificate, you go to Parliament asking for money. It's already agreed. You can't get your budget.
You cannot get it if you have not complied to the BCC's call. There is what we call the budget call circular, and there is a component where it directs spending agencies to plan and budget for gender.
Right.
And we are saying that this is going to be a certificate that should be produced by the EOC, Equal Opportunities Commission,
yes,
but issued by the Ministry of Finance before money is given to a ministry.
Well, but it's already...
They'll scrutinize.
They won't pass your sector budget unless you have it.
Exactly.
So it's not something to hang on.
Exactly.
Simply hang on.
Exactly.
But you also say you want this details in the public finance bill. They're already working on it. Why do you want it in a bill in the end?
This is something that is going to... an enforcement mechanism, if I can say, if I can use that as an enforcement mechanism. What is there to show that indeed you are complying to these gender requirements that are required of you as a sector or a ministry or department? So if at the back of their minds they know that there's something to be issued at the end of the day showing how they have mainstream gender in their sectors, they'll work towards that.
Right.
Yeah.
So you don't want it simply as an administrative
No. Because there are ministries who have come out and said we are going to mainstream gender, but there are no specific budget allocations to addressing gender issues. We want to see votes. We want to see real tangible votes being allocated to addressing gender, not just making statements of we mainstream gender. We want to see where is the money going, how is it going to benefit with the women, how much are they getting, you know.
Okay, so you talk about decentralizing payrolls. How does that become a gender issue?
Okay, this is a good proposal that government has brought on board. They are saying they want to decentralize the payroll, and we highly commend and welcome this reform to decentralize the payroll, which has been a move to address the irregularities in payroll processing and salary payment by shifting the responsibility from the ministry of Public Service and the Ministry of Finance to the respective accounting officers at the local level in the districts. And we are saying this is a good move because we have had issues of salaries not being paid in time, people going months without their salaries. And when it comes to teachers, I don't want to go into that direction. You know what the problem has been. And government is now proposing that they are going to decentralize this payroll system and have the money straight go to the accounting officers in the respective districts. And we are saying this is a very good move. But how it becomes an agenda issue is we are proposing to government to engender this payroll.
Yes, cause to happen.
Exactly, to engender the payroll.
Those are two different words. It's got nothing to do with gender.
It has
to engender is to cause to happen. It's an English.
Engender is making the payroll gender sensitive.
Well, you're creating another.
To engender the payroll, and we are saying we need to see equal consideration for men. How much money are the men going to get? How much money are the teachers going to get? If their salaries, we want to see equal consideration for both men and for the women, irrespective of their experience and their education. We don't want to see a head teacher being paid less just because she's a woman in my district in Buhweju,
or paid more,
paid less, and a teacher in Gayaza, and so all government institutions are getting more money. So we want to see a fair, I can call it an engendered payroll that is fair, that is equal for both female and male, irrespective of their experiences, irrespective of location, where the schools are, irrespective of experiences. We want to see an equal and fair system across board.
Prices are different versus Gayaza. The Matoke costs differently. Is that not a factor? Very, very briefly.
Sorry?
That would be a factor, cost of living.
And that's why we are calling for an equal treatment for all. Yes.
Well, it could be equal, it could be equity as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Talk to us, Jeff, about the social development. When you talk about social development, how would you help this gender-based budgeting process to, in the social development sector?
Isolate the social development sector vis-a-vis the rest of the sectors, and you discover that while it actually caters for the majority of citizens, me and you, the men are in there. You had Winnie talking about that. The women are in there. The young people are in there. People with disabilities are in there. The elderly are in there. And formally, even the National Social Security Fund used to be in this sector under the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. I don't want to go into the story of how it even left to go to finance. So, but you will be surprised, Edmond, that this is the least funded sector. This year we are lucky, I think it's on the ICT, which is the last, but well.
We are second last.
We are second last now. With a poetry about 45 billion. If you're talking about other sectors like works, transport, that are having over 700 plus billion, and yet we have unallocated about 500 billion.
Yes. Unallocated.
Unallocated yet. Well, we don't know how that can be allocated. But social development means that me and you, across, right from the time when we're born up to the time when we die,
we go to heaven.
How are we being catered for? If along the way, unfortunately, in an unlikely event that you actually also develop a disability, you're also catered by this sector.
Right.
If you grow and age, you become like my mom or my dad, then you are also being catered by the sector. If you're a young, vibrant person who is unemployed, who has just left university, you are under this sector.
Right.
So it's such a broad thing, but now, if the government is considerate of gender, then you ask yourself, why the poetry allocation of about 0.3, 0.4% of the entire budget? Where our priorities, where is the government putting its money?
Right.
So Yes, it's such an important sector of government, but perhaps because, and I'm happy about this effort to mainstream gender in all ministries, departments, and agencies. Maybe the thinking will come to pass that it's not just about dealing with issues of women who are complaining out there, or most of them who are in agriculture, or unemployed youth who are rowdy on the streets. But it's about how a government, how a country plans for its citizens, right from birth up to the time when they age. How are they benefiting? How are they getting back part of their the fruits of their effort?
Right.
So you don't go into things where even people are stealing people's money in terms of pension. Right. So you really have to look at this in the broadest perspective.
All right, let's take a break at this stage. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. We'll be back. Do stay tuned.
This is a warning from Cabo de Meditex. All the germs in this house, gather around this radio and listen well, because I will only say this once. You germs, I have seen how miserable you make the lives of our children. You take away their health and happiness. You make them too sick to play or learn. You make them get injections. I am Cabo de Meditex, and I am here to tell you that when I come into this family, you will be over. I will cover their skin with a double layer of protection that will destroy you. I will break your eyes and remove your energy. I will make you pay.
You have heard it straight from Cabo de Meditex. For no-nonsense protection against germs, buy Meditex for your family.
Experience the thrill and unforgettable memory of gorilla tracking. Uganda Wildlife Authority is happy to offer you up to 40% discounts on gorilla tracking permits. Offer valid till 31st May. Enjoy the rare wildlife experience of tracking the world's few remaining mountain gorillas in Bundi Impenetrable Forest and Ngahinga National Parks. You can also enjoy many other activities like nature walks, hiking, birding, golden monkey tracking, culture and community experiences with the Batwa, and a lot more. Don't miss this opportunity. Uganda Wildlife Authority, conserving for generations.
Junior's worrying me. He's not asking me for anything.
Maybe he doesn't want anything.
Watch this. Junior, there's a tub of ice cream in the fridge. It's all yours.
No thanks.
Have a jar of sweeties. You can have them all in one go.
No, I'm fine.
Let's go to the toy store and get everything we want.
I'm fine. And Mom, I don't do toys anymore.
With great kiddies channels like Disney, Cartoon Network, Boomerang, CBBS, Nickelodeon, and lots more on DSTV, your little one won't want to miss out on any of the fun. Channels differ depending on the pay.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90.
Welcome back on Spectrum tonight. The road to the 2014-2015 national budget. Does the proposed budget meet the principles of gender budgeting? Our guests, people who would know. Ms. Promise Banturachi, Program Officer at Forward, that's the Forum for Women in Democracy. Mr. Jeff Wadulo, Executive Director at Jenga Africa. You will be able to call in at some stage and interface with them directly. Promise, let's break down these issues, gender-based budgeting. How has the government performed in specific areas? Let's talk about agriculture, health, water and environment, education, works and transport, trade and industry. How have they been faring?
Okay. Let's look at the water and environment sector, which is very critical to us. We all know that women are the primary stakeholders in this sector when it comes to sanitation, when it comes to providing water for domestic use, when it comes to cooking, hygiene issues, etc. We know that the women and the girl child are the primary stakeholders in this area when it comes to water. And we know how women still grapple with the issues of accessibility, even affordability when it comes to urban areas. Women walk up to 5 kilometers, children walk up to 5 kilometers looking for water to use in their families. And there are very interesting initiatives or proposals that government has made in funding this particular sector. And we commend the government for increasing funds allocated to this subsector from 30.6 million, that was last financial year, to 45.6 billion this coming financial year. And these increases at the national level, at the Ministry of Water. And where do we come in as Forward Day? Where are our issues?
Explain.
Our issues here are on the people who are going to be accessing this 45.6 billion that government is proposing. We do not see much being allocated to rural water and supply systems, or rural water. Yet we know that most of our women, most of our girls, most of the children are concentrated in the local areas, in the rural
so what
areas.
do you want them to do?
And we
have boreholes everywhere.
We are saying, or we have also noted with concern, that rural water supply has been fixed at 62.4 billion. So allocations increases at the center, but at the local governments where service delivery actually is where there is no.
Let's split that a little bit. They keep the money in Kampala. What do they use it for? They give it to national water, for piped water, or what?
These
what would you like them to do in the villages?
Exactly. These allocations are majorly going to cater for administrative costs.
Or salaries.
And nice policies, cars. Developing policies, workshops and all. But we do not see monies being increased to our areas.
That's bizarre. You can't spend so much money on a practical topic like this. It's not rocket science.
And exactly,
exactly
that's where our issues are. And we're asking government, we are pleading with government to allocate more money at the districts where our women are concentrated, where our children are concentrated, who are still grappling with issues of accessibility. People are still dying of diarrhea diseases because they still take very contaminated water. They share water sources with animals, with everything. Builders use the same water sources. With cars, it is highly polluted.
Jeff, how do we deal with that? Is government going to listen? What are you going to do?
Well, look, even the sector-specific allocation. In this year, you saw that small 0.1% increase of about 18% in terms of percentages has remained at the center. The budget that was supposed to be for local governments, the KCCA, and has remained constant, even within that small shift. So we're thinking that maybe as the effort goes on for gender mainstreaming across all sectors, the thinking is going to change. The moment the allocation starts to hit home, knowing that anything that I do in terms of allocation of resources to gender across the sectors, it affects me and you. I think that would be a very good beginning point. But beyond that, then we're having the same old story about, like, if we're giving money to, it's gender blind budgeting, if you like. You're not thinking about women there, you're not thinking about men there who is going to be impacted by this decision that you're taking. So, but once that thinking is embedded within our planners, I think we'll begin to getting there.
Probably let's talk about some others. Education, for instance.
In the education sector, there is this controversial issue of the capitation grant that is likely to even reduce further. And that is our outcry as civil society organizations, our outcry, if I'm to speak on behalf of the pupils who will be directly benefiting for this capitation grant, that is meant to facilitate effective teaching and learning in primary schools. And here I'm talking about UPE schools. The current capitation grant is at 7,560, the current one. If you do your mathematics,
7,561.
7,560. If you do your mathematics, remember government runs on
shillings
per child per annum
for the whole year.
Exactly. So your mathematics, that is how much for a pupil? It's around 2,500 per pupil per term. Yeah,
2,500.
Exactly.
In some places it won't buy you a Coca-Cola.
Thank you. And government, however, was proposing to increase this capitation grant to 10,000 shillings
and then
per pupil per year.
But
Ministry of Finance is saying, hey, well, where will this money come from? And they are proposing to further reduce the 7,560 to 6,800. And that is ridiculous. And I'm asking myself, can this money even buy chalk? Can this money feed our people in school? This is around 2,200 per pupil per term. Can this money adequately facilitate teaching and learning in our primary schools? And I'm thinking, will the education sector achieve its educational outcomes with this, budget allocation if they further cut it? And it's an outcry for all. We are proposing, we are begging, we are asking government.
So talk to us about this. Some people have taken government to court over this. What's likely to be the outcome?
We know about our court processes. One, in the efforts of civil litigation, the outcomes are not so predictable. There are so many bottlenecks in the judiciary system, but we are hopeful that something will come out of it. But look at the end point of it. Really, the end point of it is, first of all, how much money are we even asking for? If as I told you, there's about 600 billion unallocated. I know there are so many other things we have to deal with, but issues of basic primary education.
We should throw money at it.
Throw money at it and let's move on. Improve quality, but also facilitate the achievement of that quality.
Promise, let's talk about agriculture. I'd like us to talk about trade and industry as well.
In the agriculture sector, we want to commend government for increasing the sector allocations to this particular sector. The sector budget has increased from 382.7 billion to 440.7 billion. We are happy for that, but we are hoping even this sectoral allocation to this budget will even increase further by 10%, because we know that agriculture plays a very critical role in this country, bearing in mind that over 75% of our women are engaged in agriculture, and we also know the critical role that this sector plays in the country's GDP. So we are saying that government further increase, but specifically to promoting and financing access to credit facilities. Yes,
we want to borrow money and farm.
Exactly.
What do they spend it on? Fertilizer, pesticides, or?
We are saying that government spends very little to expand the poor farmers' access to credit, save for the efforts being made by government under the agricultural credit facility, the smallholder farmers who have to an extent benefited. So we are saying that government should earmark funds for lending to small-scale farmers, and we know that our women farmers in the rural areas will benefit from such small-scale funding, but also have initiatives where they'll provide affordable interest rates, where my mother in the village can afford to borrow from these.
Fair, but we would like to know where that money goes. Is it buying these implements? Is it buying improved seed? Is it buying fertilizer, pesticides? Is it for processing of the crop storage? Is it marketing?
Exactly. We are saying this money should be invested in providing improved seeds. Now with this GMO bill also being in Parliament, not in Parliament, they're still considering passing it. We are saying that this money to the agriculture sector should be allocated to improving and providing good seeds, right? Yes. Good seeds, and also affordable to the farmers. Also in promoting cooperatives, saving schemes like SACCOs, where our women will benefit.
Actually,
let's talk about the agricultural extension services. Let's expand on that. Is that an area? This government they blame it for having destroyed this extension service, and then they brought
they're coming back.
I could add to that, right? Where she ended is that we're happy for now that government is increasingly, I think, getting a little more concerned the whole NADS program is under review, and we hope that it's going to be more effective with a more hands-on approach. But what is more exciting is in this budget framework paper and budget for this financial year is the plans to reintroduce the Cooperatives Bank.
Yeah.
But also
it can only be next year. This year there's no money for it.
I mean, but along that also is thinking about an agricultural specific bank.
It's a good idea.
To give credit to respond to the supply side effects of the production chain, right from planting up to handling, post-harvest handling. And for me, I think that's the way to go, because this being the backbone of the economy, actually they are calling it the single spine approach. I think for me...
What countries agriculture?
But also to add, Edmond, we are saying that let government allocate funds to put in place mechanisms that improve the informal seed sector by promoting, good quality seeds. You're asking me about the quality seeds through establishing model farms for seed multiplication.
We used to have model farms in the past. Just like we used to have the cooperative bank, and they killed it. Now they want to.
And government we should even come out of the culture of looking at our former glory, but look at where we are going. Government, we used to be this. Uganda used to be this. Can we go back to now planning for a better future than looking back to our old shadow, as Ugandans? So we are saying let government, especially in this sector, put in place mechanisms that improve the informal seed sector by promoting good quality seeds through establishing those good model farms that used to be for seed multiplication and distribution to the grassroots farmers, where we know our women will benefit.
Where would you center those?
Sorry?
Where would you put those 6 regions, or is it smaller? Parish level?
At the local government level, but still
we have 100 districts. So we're talking about 100 farms.
At the parishes where the responsible people will benefit or can access.
And
the women.
And the other one is to get politics out of agriculture.
Explain.
You know what has been happening to the NADS, where people who seem to be thinking in the right way are the ones who have the access channels. I think that agriculture is about me and you. It has no color. It is something that really needs to drive this economy. Actually green. Yeah, but it has to. It's the one that drives this economy, and I think we need to put our money where our mouth is.
Let's talk about the trade and industry sector. How did you get gender-based budgeting in there?
The trade and industry sector, we know that trade can be a very powerful tool for poverty eradication. You believe that, Edmond, in creating employment and also promoting sustainable development. But we've noted that the sector's allocation is 74.3 billion, and also we note that there's a slight increase from last financial year's allocation, which was 64.6 billion. But our issue here, as for a women's rights organization, is that less or no or minimal allocations have been allocated to support initiatives that would support women enterprises. And we have noted with concern that government has not made any commitments in this coming financial year to support women's enterprises and providing incentives for small businesses. And you know that most of our women are involved in small and medium enterprises, the SMEs. That's where they're concentrated, and this is an informal sector. So our issue is on no funds being available for supporting training programs for small and medium enterprises, also which forms the largest sector locations, and also the issue of yes, we are saying that government is not supporting this informal sector, the SMEs, where most of our women are concentrated. And we are recommending that government should allocate funds to promote SMEs in Uganda, where the majority of our women in the rural areas and the local governments are concentrated.
Let's hear from the listeners. This is Spectrum on Radio 1 on number 0414 348 111 0312 260 390 031 0312-261-390. When you call in, please tell us your name and your address. Spectrum, hello.
Good evening, Spectrum.
Good evening, sir. Your name?
How are you? This is Jimmy calling from Kampala here.
Jimmy in Kampala, yes?
How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Yeah, my interest regarding budgeting is over so many years. Whenever we talk about the budgeting, we really focus on the performance. Like last year's performance. And to me, it's becoming like a ritual, like something that every year they have to read the budget and certain. But I want to find out that if you read this financial year's budget and they say government is going to do ABC, and they put those things in the budget, before we go into analyzing the next budget, we analyze what really happened. If they told us they are going to construct this so many kilometers of roads, were they done? If they are going to put up new hospitals, were they done? If they were going to do this ABC, was that done before we even talk about the coming budget? Thank you.
Spectrum, hello. Okay, let's see your view on that. Do we actually undertake these audits, or we just go into it blindly?
Could we just take on that? Jimmy, thank you so much. The unfortunate thing about performance measure is that the budget cycle is so tight that before you have actually ended the previous financial year, you're already beginning to plan for the next. So the information available usually is either first quarter or second quarter performance in terms of allocation of resources. So some of it actually is not very easy to get by the time that you are actually moving into the next cycle. But also in terms of the releases from the center, you may find that the local governments have not accounted in good time, so you find so much money not being absorbed.
So you can't audit.
So you would have a lot of gaps if you wanted to do that in the cycle.
So let's talk about trade and industry. What specific areas would women be undertaking in trade?
Yeah, I think for trade, there isn't something specific to money. There's a shortfall of about 6 billion in the section of unallocated outputs, which was supposed to go for women entrepreneurs.
Yes.
This is an unfunded priority, and we're thinking if you cross-cut trade and agriculture, you see how that relationship is. If people are in agribusiness,
yes,
then they want to be sure that they are farming for profit and that they are able to sell whatever they have produced. But a whole minus 6 billion deficit, unallocated to this particular program. So that tells you that women in agriculture are going to still suffer this.
All right, this is Spectrum Radio 1. Our numbers again: 0414-348-111, 0312-260-390, 0312-261-390. We're still talking about health, water, and the environment. Let's talk a little bit more about health, the broader health sector. Yes. Would you like to talk about it a little bit before we go back to education? You spoke about the allocation already.
Do you want to go?
Well, the Health Service Commission was telling us yesterday we have a shortage of 4,000 midwives, whether men or women. What are we going to do about that?
Still in the health sector, there are still issues that we noted, and like I had said, the sector generally has received a slight increase, though we feel that there are some issues that they need to address, and one of them is funding for PMTC, which is mother to child.
Let's hear from the scholar. Spectrum, hello.
Hello?
Hello?
This is Mulongi Ahmed calling here at Kayula District by Sabo County. Hello?
Yes, sir. You're live on Spectrum. Please go on.
Oh, okay. This is Mulongi Ahmed here at Bali. Now you know the problem of those people who don't have money.
Oh, we lost Ahmed in Kayunga. Please call back in if you can't, so you can hear that view of some of the people who cannot afford the services that mainstream people normally access easily. Our number 0414348111, 0312260390, 0312261390. As promised, talk to us about this civil society budget. You have this budget framework paper, you've looked at it, and how is it going to be appraised?
There is an issue in the education sector that I need to
talk to us about the education sector.
Yes, the education sector, and there is a grappling issue that the sector is facing, which has to do with senior women teachers, and we know that a couple of UPE schools have no female teachers. This issue has increased absenteeism of girls due to sanitation, menstrual hygiene issues, and these are the issues that affect girls. While we welcome government's efforts to train 50 senior women teachers, government is proposing that they're going to train 50 female teachers. And we're asking ourselves, how many schools do we have in Uganda? How many UP schools do we have in Uganda?
50 every week or what?
50 this financial year, only 50 female senior women. And we're asking ourselves, how many schools do we have in Uganda for government to come up and say we're only going to train?
That's a drop in the ocean.
Exactly. And what is the selection criteria for these schools that they're going to train? And also we don't see
50. Why 50?
Why 50? And why not the entire country? Yet you know that there are many schools in the rural areas still grapple with female senior teachers. They're not there. They're literally not there in schools, and our girls are being exposed to challenges that affect them as girls.
Men cannot help them,
and men cannot help them. I wouldn't see a girl taking their adolescent issues to a man.
Hello.
Yes, your name?
Yeah, good evening. I'm Patrick from Montana.
Yes, Patrick.
Yes, my concern on this issue is the government speculating for only the current problem or for the future? Because if the government says it wants to only train system, that means if you're looking at what is happening right now, not what is going to happen in the future, because it's already a problem. Anyway, my point is that I would advise to do it as a program.
Thank you, caller. Though I missed your name, Patrick. Yeah, thank you, Patrick. Patrick shares the same concern that we welcome. This is an effort by government. They say they're going to train 50 senior teachers, but this number is still so inadequate to resonate with the looming problem of few female teachers across the country. And they're saying this situation will even get worse in hard-to-reach districts where women cannot go.
Yes.
Where women cannot go. And we are saying this 50 is not enough. Can you even train more? Can you deploy more? And our recommendation is in recruiting.
Okay.
More
Hello, your name again? Ahmed. Yes, welcome.
Yeah. In fact, those primary schools don't have that women teachers. So I give the government the ideas to deploy some women teachers there in that school, because those girls are going to face their problem, challenges, especially in the menstruation period. This is more coming from Bali.
Well, that's a very, very powerful point. That
is a gentleman even calling to give government some recommendations, because this is a very pertinent
free consultants.
Exactly, this is a very critical issue, and it's real. It's not that it's not happening. Most girls are missing school because of these adolescent issues or challenges that they face that only women can address. A woman can at least try to address.
Yes.
And when it comes to hard-to-reach districts, the problem becomes worse. So we are calling upon government to really recruit more teachers who could also even recruit more teachers, especially women teachers who could also double as senior women teachers.
Provide mentorship and
counseling, mentorship, leadership, especially counseling when it comes to these critical issues that affect girls in schools.
All right, our time is up. We have to go. Thank you very much indeed, dear guests.
You're welcome.
Promise Winnie Banturachi, Program Officer at Forward, the Forum for Women in Democracy. Thank you for coming tonight. And Mr. Jeff Fuatulo, Executive Director at Jenga Africa. That's an NGO. Thank you for tuning in. I've been your host, Ed Montes. The Spectrum will be back tomorrow. Up next is News in English.
It's incredible how this cup of coffee got here. Explain. Well, the farmer has to know when it's going to rain. The buyer needs to know when to buy. The trucks when to collect. For that, you need a satellite to talk to the ships and the factory.